Hey,
Hey,
how you doing?
doing all right. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. Thank you so much for doing this. I feel like I'm
Oh,
mixing up some of the equations and just need to get them hammered in my head better, and the textbook is not cutting it.
yeah, not a problem at all. What is it exactly that you'd like to go over?
So I wrote down as we were doing our group meeting last night some questions that I could tell I wasn't as sharp on as I need to be, and then I just want to clarify a couple formulas, which I think going over those questions briefly will clarify the formulas I'm mixed up on.
Not a problem. And don't mind me eating, I'm so hungry.
I'm doing it too. You're good. I was
Okay.
about to say the same thing. We're college kids. We don't have time to actually eat like normal people.
Honestly. Okay, so yeah,
Oh,
what are those questions? Are they on the review or on the quiz?
they're on the quiz was the same as the chapter 8.
Hmm.
Here, let me go back there. The quiz was the same as the chapter 8 question. So that's where I'm kind of pulling my stuff from.
Okay. Okay.
So is that a good place for me to be pulling from, or was that a really awful idea?
No, no, that's perfectly fine.
Okay. So, first off, there was this one sheet we used towards the beginning of the semester that you could input things to find like the quadrants and stuff.
Yeah.
Where can I find that? I can't find it anywhere.
Huh. Okay.
Do you happen to know where that is?
Yeah, I'm gonna look for it right now actually.
Okay.
I believe if you just go in the search bar. That's
Mhm.
up there on the top right. Or sorry, what was the on the next tab, lesson eight's review?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then you go all the way to the top right. Yeah, if you're able to just put in a quantitative, descriptive, that should bring it up.
Okay. I could spell it, that would help. Okay. Let's see what happens.
Um, so try the first one.
Okay.
I'll also look on my end.
Because I've been looking for it and I cannot find that stupid worksheet, and I know I want it for the test.
Mhm.
Let's see. I'm not seeing any links.
Nonetheless, they will give it to you when you click into the exam. It will be a hyperlink up top.
Will it, along with the applet, I assume?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
At least that's how it was for mine. Okay, perfect. I found it.
You did?
Go to lesson three, describing quantitative data,
That's where I am. Where am I missing this sucker?
and then just put Control F for find,
Okay.
and then type in again quantitative, and then hit enter like 3 times. There.
There it is. It's in a blue box, highlighted blue. No wonder I didn't notice it. And then we'll just grab this one. Okay, because I know that will help on a couple of the things
Yeah.
I've been struggling with. The right one. Let's see. This is it, right?
No, that's
Maybe.
the next one. You're in the categorical data. That's the
Looks
next
like.
one though. You're jumping that's the middle one, I believe.
Okay. So will I want that one for the test too then?
No, not at this time. The next test you will though.
Okay. Paste your data in. I think this is the right one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when it gives us a list of data, I would just clear this and paste it in here. Is
No,
that how this worked?
no,
Where
you
what?
don't touch anything on that after cell B, I believe it is,
Okay,
column B. The only column that you'll ever touch is column A.
got it. Okay, so I would just type any data into here.
Yeah, type it or copy paste it.
Okay, perfect. And that gives me quadrants and stuff. Okay. When we went over this at the beginning of the semester, it kind of flew over my head for some reason, so I haven't been using it, but it's obviously a good tool that I should be using.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's see. Um, okay, so for standard deviation, that's just x minus the what was it? X minus the sample mean, right?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure I had that right. And then, can you explain to me why 15 is false?
Is it concerning the data in 16?
No, it's
What data
just
is
in
it pulling off?
general. It says under certain conditions, the standard deviation can be negative. True or false?
Okay.
Here, can you
Um,
read that better now?
yeah. So where you received my PowerPoint, is that right?
Yes, I did. I haven't made it all the way through yet, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, so it answers it indirectly there, but
Okay.
ultimately it comes down to understanding the definition or understanding the definition of standard deviation. Now, the definition of standard deviation is ultimately the spread of the data.
Yeah.
So the spread compared to the mean, of course, is your z-score at that point. So if
Mm-hmm.
you have a negative standard deviation, that just means that the value that you are looking at is below the mean or below the average compared to the population or to the sample.
Okay.
So for example,
So it can be
let's
negative then.
so it can be so it says the answer is false.
Okay, so it can't be negative. That's what I thought the answer was. I just am
Yeah,
confused on where
so
I
it can
guess.
be negative, absolutely. Just for an example, let's say we're looking at the height, the height of males, and
Okay.
let's just make up a number. Let's say the average height of males is 5 feet 8 inches. Let's just
Okay.
say. Of course, there's a lot of males that would be around that specific height. However, there would be quite a bit that are much taller, or quite a bit that are much smaller. So
Yes.
therefore, your z-score and your standard deviation would be negative if you were looking at a specific male that was shorter than the average.
Okay. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when we're looking at the applet,
Mm-hmm.
basically anything on the left-hand side would be a negative standard deviation.
Not necessarily. Well, can you rephrase that actually? You mean
So,
from when you're highlighting?
yeah, when you're highlighting.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you're highlighting, that just means that you're looking at the probability of someone being less than that value. It doesn't
Okay, that's
necessarily
different.
mean, yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that the standard deviation is negative. For example, back to the height of men. Let's say we find a man that has been blessed with great vertical genes and he's 6'3". Let's
Okay.
just say. And because he's over the average, then his standard deviation and z-score would be positive.
Mm-hmm.
However, compared to everyone else, the 6'3" man is quite tall. A lot of people would consider him tall. So the proportion of people that are less than him would be below his value. So highlight everything to the left. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the standard deviation is negative. It just means that other people, their value is below his specific value.
That makes sense. Okay, awesome. Standard deviation, I think I've gotten a little mixed up in my head over the last few weeks, so I need to make sure I get that straight in the next 24 hours.
Not a problem.
Okay, let's see. Can you explain to me how to read this graph in 19? I think I'm misunderstanding what exactly this is showing me because I seem to always get these problems wrong.
Yeah. So what you have there is the box plot. Of course, you see the rectangle
Yes.
that represents three of the five number summaries.
Okay.
The five number summaries are the minimum, which is the leftmost whisker.
Okay.
Then the beginning of the box, perfect at number 4 is Q1, 6
Okay.
the medium, 8
Okay.
being the max, or sorry, 8 being Q3, quartile 3.
Okay.
And then traditionally the last whisker all the way to the end is 12, is the maximum. However, in this case, you have an outlier at 14, which therefore you can come to the conclusion that it's an outlier. First of all, it's way extreme.
Yeah.
And therefore the data is right skewed.
Okay.
Because the outlier is pulling everything to that side.
So you said this line was always Q1,
Yes, the beginning. The
and
beginning.
then the dark spot is the median.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got Q3 at the outer edge of the box.
Yeah.
And then supposedly this is the maximum unless there's an outlier.
Yeah. And
Okay.
let me see. 1 second.
That makes sense. So when they're asking for like Q2 or something like that, all I'm doing is basically finding the middle ground between these two, right?
Q2, yeah, Q2 could be interchanged for median. That's right.
Okay.
And it's important to note that I'm just making sure something really quickly. It's also important to note that the box plot tells you nothing concerning the standard deviation or the average. It ultimately just gives you a visual representation of the proportions that are there.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm writing down notes as you talk.
Oh, no problem.
Okay. So let's see. Okay, so basically from question 22 on to 32 till the end, I feel like I'm missing something or forgot something because every single one of these, when I tried to calculate them, I got the wrong answer. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong to know exactly what to ask. So, could we go over like maybe not every single question, but like basic like formulas covered within this chunk of the review to make sure that I have the right formula associated with the right question? Because maybe that's where I'm messing up.
Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely go over that. So 20 to 23 is also ultimately going to be one type of theory or equation, if you will.
Okay.
However, that being said, this is more of a theory-based questions. The remaining 24 to 32, I don't remember the exact number, is equations practically.
Okay.
So from 24 onward, actually, you'll find on the PowerPoint presentation, it's illustrated there. However, on the earlier 20s, I briefly went over it, but we can definitely go into it in more detail.
Okay. Could we
So,
do that?
yeah, so especially with 20 to 23, it's best to do it with a visual representation. But do you have a piece of paper with you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So would you be able to please create a normal probability applet that signifies or that shows and represents the information that they give?
Okay, so let's see. So I'm on an applet. Let's see. We're looking at Oy, oy, oy. Would have okay. So we'd be looking at something along
Mm-hmm.
these lines.
Perfect. Now, just to illustrate just a little bit better, those are from 2 deviations away. So draw another line that would represent 1 standard deviation away.
So like that.
Perfect. Okay. Now, the first thing that you want to do, and actually is the first question, is to find the mean, so the middle, aka 0, 0 z-score. Now, the way to find... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Wouldn't I just add those two numbers up and divide it by 2 for that?
That's right.
Okay, that
Perfect.
one's easy enough. Okay, let me just throw that together real quick. Okay, so that's 2.055.
Perfect.
And then I would do that same thing to find the quartiles on either side of that, right?
To find 1 deviation away, yes, that's
Or
right.
the deviations. I
Yeah.
get deviations and quartiles mixed up. I just realized this.
Yeah,
I
remember,
do that. Okay.
remember quartiles deal with the box plot, not that specifically.
Okay, so quartiles and z-scores are not directly related at this point, at least, right?
That's right.
Okay. I'm mixing those up. That might be half my problem. Okay. Okay, so that's what we do.
Were you able to get it?
Yeah, I think I got them. So let's see. So the mean would be that 2.055. Standard deviation of the measured nitrate contrate. So would the difference between all these numbers be the same, and that would be our standard deviation?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so the standard deviation is 0.2325 then.
0.2325. That's right.
Okay. Between the two measured nitrogen, do approximately 68%. Okay, how do I figure out 22 then? This would have to do with that one rule, wouldn't it? The 68, 95, 99 rule?
That's right.
Okay, so
What
remind
does
me
that
how
rule
that
mean?
works.
Okay. So the rule states, let me finish chewing really quickly.
You are just fine. Are you having anything good?
Yeah, my fiance made curry, so it's really good.
Nice.
So the rule states that within 1 standard deviation, so between 1 and -1
Okay.
lies 68% of all data.
Okay.
At 2 deviations, 95% lies. Yeah, so we can draw that out. So from -1 to 1 is 68. From -2 to 2 is 95. Yeah, and then if you had 3 deviations, if you illustrated that, which is not necessary, but just for your knowledge, it's 99.7, which leaves, yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Which leaves, if you pull it through, after the third deviation, you have 0.3 left. So that means you have 0.15 going all the way in the positive direction and 0.15 going all the way in the negative direction.
And those would be our outliers, right?
Yeah, those would be your way extreme. I don't know what happened, or this guy
9 foot tall man or something.
Yeah, the 9 foot tall man, or like the 2'1".
Okay. Makes sense. Okay, so for the 68%, then what was the question? Let me go back to that on my end. So, what two measured nitrate contracts do it possibly? So that would just be the 1.8225 and 2.2875. Just listing those two numbers.
That's right.
Okay, I'm way overcomplicating this in my own head. I'm really good at doing that with math stuff. Okay, and this we basically already answered in previous questions, right?
That's right.
Okay. Moving right along then, that makes so much more sense. I'm overcomplicating things.
Yeah, it's definitely gets a little tricky in terms of wording, and then you kind of like overcompensate. And for example, like this question, there is so much fluff that you do not need.
Yeah, ridiculous amount. I think that's half of my problem.
And they throw in like 2 other numbers that are completely irrelevant.
Yeah. And I'm assuming the test is going to be nice and kind to us and throw in a ton of extra numbers too.
Sometimes they'll be nice and kind.
Yeah, I'm not counting on it. Okay. So here, I'll share my screen again for this next little section. I know you were kind of explaining this to my group, and I think I just missed something. So the 4-step process you gave us, I'm good on that. Where you go to the applet and then highlight the left column, input the percent at the top in the form of a decimal, and then step 4 is where I'm messing up, I think. So we use the Z to find X. So I have written down.
What you're talking about will help you on question 27 and 28.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I guess I did jump ahead. I was excited to kind of sort of know that part.
No, I'm confident you know that part.
So for that equation though, I believe you told us in that chapter that equation was X equals Z times standard deviation and then add the mean. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. Then I was using the wrong equation yesterday, and that fixes all my problems on those two. Yeah. Okay, so let's go back up to 24 then. What's the probability that a randomly selected student will score above? Okay, I just can't remember how to do this. Can you remind me?
So a good key indicator in terms of what you'll be doing is whenever it says what is the probability, strong likelihood is that you're going to use the normal probability applet to give you the probability.
That makes sense. Okay.
With using the normal probability applet, you're going to need one of two things, either a z-score or a percentile.
Yes.
So in this case, it doesn't give us a percentile, but it gives us information that we can use to find the z-score.
Okay, and I know how to use the z-score equation. I'm good at that one.
Yeah, so for example, in 24, just tell me verbally, what is the equation and what are the corresponding values that would substitute for the variables?
Okay, so the z-score is X minus the mean divided by standard deviation, and then it could have the square root of n, which in this case, n is going to be this number they gave us, I think. No, never mind. That's x. So yeah, that's x.
Good catch. Is there an n? Is there an n in that scenario?
Let's see. We've got mean there, standard deviation there. Random number. I don't think so.
Perfect. If we're going to be super duper technical, you're right. It is no. But again, if we're going to be super duper technical, the answer is yes. It's 1 because it says a randomly selected student.
That's not a bad way to think about it for me, though, because then I will never forget to add that part in when there is an n.
Yeah. So in total reality, the equation that includes the divided by the root n, that is the equation in its purest form. Now, the reason I say that is because at all times you will have at least one sample.
Yes.
But the square root of 1 is 1, so it cancels out. So
that makes sense.
So it's kind of just, space that's taken up if we leave it. And just to, simplify things, they tell you not to put it in, but in total reality, it's 1, which, doesn't really make a big difference. But just, so you understand the theory that in all cases there is an n, but sometimes it's just 1, which therefore cancels out the denominator.
No, that makes sense because that means the formula is never actually changing, which makes more sense than it changing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm good on those then. Let me make sure. First quartile of the distribution scores. The third quartile. I can use that sheet for those, right?
Sorry?
I can use this sheet to find these quartiles, right?
No, you cannot.
Okay, then how do I find those?
So the reason you can't is that sheet is beautiful and it works magic. However, it can only be properly used if you have data to actually paste or to copy into.
That makes sense.
In this case, you have no samples in terms of no values that they, computed or gathered.
Okay.
29 and 30 is really just a rewritten 27 and 28.
Oh, really?
So
you're right.
What does the first quartile mean?
The first quartile was, where is that in my notes?
How much data does that hold?
Well, I'm guessing 10%.
No, close. Remember the box plot? It's a perfect representation of what this is saying. Remember when we were looking at the whiskers and you said, the beginning of the box is the first quartile?
Yes.
Do you remember what that represents?
That was the first and the third quartile were 68%, right?
No, that is the first deviations.
That's the deviations. Dang it, I keep mixing those up.
No problem. So quartiles go in increments of 25. So for example, you have the minimum, which 9 times out of 10 is going to be 0. Your minimum being 0. Your first quartile being 25. Your second quartile, also known as the median, being 50%. The third quartile being 75. And the maximum being 100. So in total reality, I can restate 29 and say, find the GMAT score that corresponds to the 25th percentile.
Okay. That makes sense. I just obviously completely forgot what quartiles were, and that's causing me a lot of problems.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so quartile 1's 25%, quartile 2 is the medium / 50%, quartile 3 is 75%, and quartile 4 is 100%.
Yeah, it's the maximum.
Okay. That makes sense. Then I know how to solve that too. See, I knew this crap.
Yeah, you know it. Just need a little refresher.
Yeah, I'm just getting stuff mixed up. There's a lot of equations for a first exam.
Yeah, there's a handful.
There's
But
a fair amount. I'm not a
yeah.
math person. This stuff I really have to work to do well in these kinds of classes.
Yeah, in total reality, there actually is only one equation that you need to know, but there's three different renditions or algebraic expressions based on
Mm-hmm.
one equation. So it does look like a little bit more, but it really just is one that you have to understand how to manipulate, understand how to move. But nonetheless, you could remember the three, or you can um,
Convert the one.
convert the one if you're good with your algebra.
Fair enough. Okay, well, I think that covers all the questions I had that I wasn't fully getting from the PowerPoint.
Hmm.
So I feel like I'm in a good spot. Can you think of anything that I seem like I might not understand well enough?
Um, well, how did you feel about the PowerPoint? Because the PowerPoint does contain like 80 to 90% of the understanding and the theory that you need to know for the exam.
Honestly, I'm still sifting through it. I have two sick kids, and so my
Mhm.
studying has been slower than ideal the last few days. But what I've gotten through so far, I'm feeling pretty good with, and I feel like it's helping me
Yeah.
refresh. So I've
It just,
been sifting through it slowly.
yeah, it just seems that you need to, from just meeting with you right now, it seems like you really need to hone in and like attack what the definitions of standard deviation, the definition of z-score, the definition of percentile, the definition of quartile. But once you get those down, I feel like the equation that is needed to solve the problem will jump in your head, and you're like, oh, I know what I need to do, and then of course, you know the variables that correspond to whatever question you're going after.
Well, then I'll focus my studying more on concepts than math. I think I've been focusing on the math too much in my studying and not the concepts enough. So I'll backtrack a little because I think I understand how to do the math, but I need to first understand which math to use, which
Yeah,
is, I think, the main mistake I'm making right now.
yeah. The thing that you have to remember is the z-score equation. That's most definitely. Two, how to find x. So an algebraic expression of z-score to
Yep.
find x. So in reality, it's one, but we'll count it as two. And lastly, which you already hit, that a lot of people were getting confused on, and I actually had a few people meet with me one on one, was how to find the center of a specific value. So like we
And
would,
that was easy. I
yeah,
get that.
yeah, you add it together and you divide it in half. That concept will save you in a few scenarios. But
Okay.
if you understand those three, you will be perfectly fine.
Awesome.
So it just comes down to understanding when to use it appropriately.
Okay. I saw he's allowing 4 hours for the test. How long is this
Mhm.
thing?
Yeah, that's very extreme.
Okay.
When I first did it, it only took me like a little bit over an hour and 10 minutes.
Okay. So
But
it's not like a
yeah,
hundred and something questions or something crazy
no.
like
If I
that.
remember correctly, it's only 40,
Okay.
and a handful of it like goes off the previous question or the previous information, just like how you see in your quizzes.
Groupings.
Yeah, and in your quiz, how you'll have like one massive paragraph in terms of information and data and so forth. Then the next six questions hit on that.
Yeah.
You have scenarios like that. So
Okay.
once you get in the groove, you're hitting like six questions out in like a minute because you're like, oh, I just have to highlight now, and oh, I just need to subtract now. So it's very
Perfect.
very quick like that.
Awesome. That works for me. I was a little nervous how I was going to keep the children quiet for 4 hours.
Yeah, no, I feel like a reasonable time to set aside is an hour and a half, hour 40,
Okay.
and that's giving you time to think and ponder and check over your work. Uh,
Perfect.
so an hour and a half, hour 40, I think would be a great start.
Awesome. My husband usually tries to get the kids out of the house when I have tests.
Yeah.
And so it's good to give him some idea of what's going to take. how much time so he knows where to take them.
Yeah.
I've got 2 toddlers. It's rough taking them anywhere for long, so we
Mhm.
really have to plan this.
Yeah, an hour 40. If you were a quicker test taker, then of course a little bit quicker. If you feel like you take a little bit more time, then a little bit later.
Okay.
But I have not seen anyone take over like 2 hours.
Okay.
Because again, it rolls off the other, and you're like, oh, it's this, and this. The first few questions are very independent, so they don't depend on the other because it hones in on the understanding of quantitative versus categorical data,
Okay.
observational versus experimental studies, and then there's a good number. I don't know the exact number, but a handful of name this sampling method.
Okay. That
Uh,
makes sense.
Yeah, and then it goes into the rule, and then your z-scores are at the end, the tail end, when it comes to what's the z-score, or what's the probability, or at this
Okay.
percentile, what's x, and that type of thing.
For the sampling method, since you brought it up, cluster versus stratified.
Mm-hmm.
Clustered is taking like everyone in a group and only pulling samples from that one group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus
Mm-hmm.
stratified is grouping people and then pulling out a sample from each group,
Yeah, that's
right?
right. Yeah, the
Okay.
way I like to think about it is cluster is all from one, whereas stratified is some from all.
That works. Okay.
That's how I remember it.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure on
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
Awesome. Does your fiance ever see you with all this studying?
Most of my days are just studying. Today was absolutely hectic. I got the full week's worth of homework done for 2 classes, and then I just finished accounting not too long ago, and I still have more accounting after this. But we're gonna
Oh,
watch, we're gonna watch a movie, and then she'll go to bed, and I'll still work on accounting
and
after.
you're still what's her major?
She's a data science, so
Nice.
it's a cross between programming and statistics. So
That's
she
actually really cool.
Yeah, so she actually her I TA for this online class, but I
Mm-hmm.
also TA for an on-campus class in which she is actually my partner, or we're TAs together.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, so
That's
she's
so
pretty good at
fun.
that.
Well, that's cool.
One
I
of her
miss
many
being
talents.
engaged. And
Oh
being engaged is like the funnest time. It probably seems like the longest wait ever in the
yeah,
moment, but looking back, I wish I could be engaged again because it was so fun.
yeah, it's a good time. I'm enjoying it.
It's great. I love it. And you said you're getting married at the end of the semester, right?
Yeah, in April, late April.
That's awesome. I'm excited for you.
Oh, thank
It's
you.
fun. New chapter. Awesome. Well, I think I'm good. Thank you so much for meeting with me. I
Yeah,
really appreciate it.
yeah. I'm just trying to let me look over my PowerPoint to see if there's anything like major specific. Um,
I'll flip through real quick too on the slides I haven't gotten to see if anything's jumping out at me.
I'm assuming you did the first few.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the bottom few are actually reading box plots, which we went over just right now.
Yes.
Yeah, the bottom is reading box plots, reading QQ plots, the definition of percentile, um, and a few other definitions like z-score, standard deviation, the things that we're honing in on, the difference between central limit theorem and law of large numbers. It's very important to know because there's literally a specific question on that.
Okay.
Um,
The theorem was the shape versus the law of large numbers was the mean, right?
that's right. So
Okay.
so ultimately central limit theorem has to do with the shape of the distribution in terms of its proximity to being normal. And law of large numbers deals with x, or a value or values, so x or x bar being close to the mean.
Okay. I think I'm pretty clear on that.
Yeah.
Does
And
the test ask any about the 5 steps that they go over in every chapter about like design a study and collecting the data and all that stuff?
Yes, there is one question on that actually. It basically just gives you a scenario and says, "Oh, what's process or what step of the process are they currently on?"
Okay.
So, for example, I'll just give you an example for each. So let's say, oh, let's do height again. Let's stick with heights. Be like, oh, I want to know the mean average of heights for all male. This is what I'm gonna do. This is how I'm gonna do it, and this is when I'm gonna do it. That's designing the study.
Yep.
Going out and surveying and measuring and collecting data. That's of course the collection of data.
Yep.
The third step being discern, describing the data that ultimately entails me producing graphs, charts, tables, and so forth to depict what my collection has brought and what I'm putting forth.
Okay.
Making inference is ultimately drawing a conclusion. Well, hey, because of all the data I collected, now I can say that the average is not 5'8" for males. It's actually a little bit taller. It's 5'9" for males. Making inference basically means just coming to a conclusion, coming to a statement, making your hypothesis clear, and so forth. And then taking action is actually bringing it forth and changing preconceived notions or ideas, and putting your research and information, making it known.
Okay. So that would be like publishing the data, sort of.
Yeah, publishing, teaching, tutoring, or just getting your data in front of people's heads to make it known as quote unquote truth.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, I feel a million times more ready for this test.
Perfect. I'm
Awesome.
feeling the
I'm feeling good. I'm one of those people, I don't do well with textbooks. Online school is awful for me, but I'm surviving.
No, I know you'll do great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And if you have like any, questions that come up within the next few hours before you go on the test, or even after, of course, you can always send me an email. I'm always close to my email because, of course, internships come in and students email me, and I have my own things with my teachers, and so I'm always on my email or close to my email. So
You're not busy at all. Let's be honest here.
yeah, no, sometimes I catch myself, twirling my thumbs.
Oh, goodness. I don't know how you do it. You are by far the best TA I've ever had, though. So you've got that going for you. You're awesome. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Anything to help out and get that A, because it's possible.
Hey, I like it. Well, you go enjoy your fiance, and I'll be taking this test tomorrow. You can see how I do.
For sure. And again, don't hesitate to send me an email if you have any last questions before you go in.
Okay, I'll let you know. I'll be studying all day tomorrow, so don't be surprised if you get a couple emails.
No, you're fine. Take care and good luck.
Thanks. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.